Today I'm diving deep, and I mean really deep, into the crazy world of progressive rock Holy Grail albums, to uncover 12 of the rarest, most elusive prog albums ever pressed. Now these aren't just hidden gems. Some of these records are so scarce that even veteran collectors have never seen them in person. Let's take a look at what's going on. Welcome back to the channel, and in this video I'm shedding some light on the rather cryptic world of rare prog albums and include some idea of what these vinyls might fetch if they did become available. Now if this is your kind of video, give it a like, a share, a hype and a subscribe for more videos of this nature from the Album Review channel. Now before we jump in, a little context. The golden age of progressive rock from the late 60s through to the late 70s wasn't just dominated by giants like Yes, Genesis or King Crimson. And looking beneath the surface, there were countless smaller bands experimenting with mellotrons, odd time signatures, jazz fusion, classical elements and psychedelic soundscapes. Now many of these recorded perhaps just one album, pressed just a few hundred or even fewer copies, or then vanished into the ether. Some were self-released, some suffered label collapses, and others simply came out at the wrong time. Now today, collectors are hunting these albums really like buried treasure, sometimes paying thousands for a single copy. Let's begin our journey into the obscure. Now, stay with me as this first one's quite a modern rarity, well worth a hearing. The released in 1998, Symphonic Holocaust by Morte Macabre really has earned a reputation as one of the scarcest modern prog records, largely because it was issued in very limited quantities. The niche nature of the project meant few were pressed and fewer survive in circulation. Now, the album is built around a chilling cinematic atmosphere, heavy mellotron-laden with haunting melodies, dramatic crescendos and a gothic horror soundtrack vibe. The musicians are members of established Swedish prog bands, yet this record stands apart. It's dark, brooding and utterly immersive. For collectors aiming to own a rare prog-era gem that feels like lost 70s horror prog, this one is gold. Now, collectors' price range, these roughly between £150 to £300, depending on the condition, possibly more if sealed or near mint. There's a French prog psych avant-garde album, Debout from 1971. This blends wild, expressive vocals with cosmic synthesizers, flute and drifting freeform compositions. The result is something really quite strange, quite beautiful and confrontational, often alternating between serene beauty and unsettling dissonance. Now, because artist Catherine Ribeiro operated outside the mainstream, the album was pressed in small numbers and never really saw the exposure of perhaps the British or Italian prog contemporaries. Original pressings are extremely elusive, especially outside of France. And for those willing to hunt, it really does represent a rare window into the truly experimental fringe of early 70s prog. Collector's price range here for the original LP roughly between €200 to €400, that's £170 to £330, with top condition copies commanding really much more than that. Quick question before we go on, have you heard of this next one coming up? Let me know in the comments if you will. Now, it's a brilliant hybrid of brass rock, folk, jazz and psychedelia. The album's strange pleasure from the band Galliard never conformed to any tidy genre box. It features horns, acoustic guitar, fuzzy electric textures and odd arrangements combined to really make a sound that's as eccentric as it is captivating. The original pressing was extremely limited, and the band dissolved shortly after its release, so very few copies have actually survived. Now, to hear this record today is to experience prog-era fearless experimentation outside the usual Canterbury or Italian-style frameworks. Collector's price range between 120 to 250, and that's even if you can find one. Released on the iconic Swirl label version of a major prog imprint, the album Asylum by Cressida offers melancholic organ-rich tracks, plaintive vocals and strong melodic songwriting. A softer, perhaps more emotional side of early 70s prog. But what makes it rare is simple scarcity. Vertigo label albums often had modest pressings, and many copies were lost over time. But for those who appreciate melodic and melancholic prog, rather than heavy or overtly experimental stuff, Asylum is a quietly gorgeous album. Collector's price range for the original Vertigo Swirl pressing, roughly £150 to £300, but with near mint copies at the high end. Now, the British band Spring embraced the mellotron perhaps more fully than almost any other act of the era. The result is a pastoral, dreamy and melancholic self-titled record that is heavy on atmosphere and wistful themes. It had an original trifold sleeve design, making intact copies especially rare. Many were damaged over time or even lost, but what survives is a hauntingly beautiful snapshot of early 70s prog folk at its peak. Soft, dreamy, but emotionally powerful. Collector's price range here for good condition pressings around 180 to 350. Now this next one is a really serious collector's dream. Often cited among UK prog collectors as one of the rarest and most beautiful of records, we have Paint a Picture by Fantasy from 1973. Now the music is melodic, immersive and warm, somewhere between perhaps early Genesis and pastoral folk rock. There's lush arrangements and gentle evocative songs. Now despite the quality, the band never gained the mainstream traction, and pressings of this album really were quite small and the record sank into obscurity. Now for anyone after a melodic, under-the-radar prog gem that still delivers artistry, this would be a dream find. The collector's price range somewhere between £200 to £400, but demand and very few surviving copies can really push it higher. I checked on Discogs and they show a price really anything up to €2,000 for a top quality copy. Now moving to Italian prog now, Zarathustra by Museo Rosenbach is widely regarded as one of the most ambitious, philosophical and musically adventurous albums of the 70s. It's got that complex compositions, the dramatic vocal delivery, sweeping keyboards and guitars and grand scope really make it a landmark in Italian progressive rock. But again, there were some quite limited pressings and many copies deteriorated or have been lost over the decades. And a clean vinyl original is now exceedingly rare. Consequently, it has a serious price. Now for those prog collectors with a taste for symphonic and dramatic flair, this is a crown jewel. Collector's price for a typically original LP in good condition, somewhere between €250 to €500, depending heavily on the sleeve, vinyl condition. But again, Discogs quote anything up to €5,000 for this one. Now, hang on a minute. This next one's an absolute monster. T2's It'll All Work Out in Boomland is a heavy-sight blues-tinged prog album that roars with energy. It has thunderous strumming, searing guitar solos, moments of pastoral calm, and then explosions of raw power. There's a closing 21-minute track, Morning, really, which remains one of the most compelling one-offs of the era, a true progressive blues rock epic. The original pressings were very, very small in quantity. The band broke up soon after, and the album lingered in obscurity, making it one of the most hunted UK prog LPs. Many collectors regard it as a must-own for anyone serious about heavy or psychedelic prog. Collector's price for the original UK Decca pressing, good to very good condition, typically between £250 to £600. Though mint copies can really push this much higher, occasionally dipping lower dependent on the condition. Now, a soft rock oddity, the 1973 self-titled album from Debout is dreamy, mellow and nonconformist. Debout abandoned bombastic prog tropes for subtlety, gentle instrumentation, delicate singing and atmospheric production. Now, because the band disbanded almost immediately, and the pressing run was really very, very small indeed, very few copies really ever circulated. Now, for collectors interested in perhaps the quieter, more introspective side of early 70s prog folk, this one's rare and a rewarding find. Collectors' price range for an original pressing often between £120 to £220 when available. But many collectors consider anything under £200 to be a rare bargain here. One of the darkest, most unsettling albums ever was First Utterance from Comus, yet it's one of the most revered in the collector community. It combined acoustic guitars, violins, flutes, and ethereal vocal harmonies with frighteningly raw pagan lyrics about psychological terror abuse and myth. First Utterance stands really quite on its own. The themes are stark, the music is haunting. Its original pressing on the label of the era was extremely limited and massively underappreciated at the time. Now, over the decades, it's grown into a cult legend. Original copies in good condition are fetched between £400 to £600, or indeed more, in auctions. And again, Discogs took in excess of €3,000 for a top-quality copy. Because of its rarity and near-mythical status, many consider it the holy grail of prog folk, a must-own for serious collectors. Now, we're getting obscure now, and I mean really obscure. The self-titled 1976 album from Frob gave this German jazz fusion prog album a deep cut even by collector standards. It's full of fluid guitar lines, intricate rhythms and improvisational flair. More jazz than rock at times, but with enough prog sensibility to sit amongst its peers. The record was issued in tiny numbers, and it rarely surfaces on the open market. But for those who appreciate the technical, experimental and fusion-leaning side of a prog, a copy of Frob is a rare treat. Collector's price range for an original between £150 to £300 when it appears, but many copies are degraded, making clean ones especially desirable, hence the price goes up. Now, the band gracious with the exclamation mark at the end of their name were a symphonic psych prog hybrid from the UK, and who released their second album on the Philips label. The music blends classical drama, heavy psych riffs, and early progressive ambition. A somewhat theatrical, dramatic take on what prog could be. But because of poor sales and a short press run, the album nearly vanished. Today, it's considered one of the most sought-after early 70s UK prog LPs. Collector's price range roughly between £200 to £400, depending on the vinyl and sleeve condition, with the rare excellent copies creeping well above that. I think it's important to stress that these prices should be used as a guide only and can fluctuate dramatically dependent on condition and demand at the time, but it's really a useful indication to the likely value, but really no more than that. Thanks for joining me on this journey through some of prog rock's rarest treasures. Now, if you enjoyed this deep dive and want to see more videos exploring hidden albums, forgotten bands and lost recordings, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And if you want to support the channel even further, get bonus content, early access, and special behind-the-scenes extras, check out my newly launched Patreon. Your support helps keep these long-form deep dives alive. Until next time, keep listening, keep exploring, and remember, in the world of prog, the journey never really ends.